In the crypto world, everything is about speed, right? Chasing the next big thing, the next 100x. But there's this one major project that's famous for being, well, the opposite, slow. We're talking about Cardano, the so-called slow turtle of the blockchain space. And yet, here's the twist. While a lot of people are getting impatient, some of the biggest, smartest investors, the whales, are quietly buying it up. And that brings us to the big question we're going to tackle in this explainer. Why on earth would these silent giants be placing these huge long-term bets on a project that so many others have written off for its almost glacial pace? To get to the bottom of this, we really have to look at two completely different stories that are happening at the same time. So on one side, you have the slow turtle. This is Cardano's whole identity. It's academic, it's all about security, and it is incredibly deliberate. And then on the other side, you have the silent whale. This is the smart money, the big players who are patient and are looking way, way down the road. And as you're about to see, these two stories, they are deeply connected.
Okay, so let's crack open this turtle shell, shall we? To really get what Cardano is all about, we have to start with its founder, Charles Hoskinson. Now, he was actually a co-founder of Ethereum, but he had a totally different vision for how you should build a blockchain from the ground up.
You know that whole move fast and break things mantra from Silicon Valley? Well, Hoskinson wanted the complete opposite. His philosophy was that every single piece of the technology, every update, had to be backed by formal scientific papers and then torn apart by other academics through peer review, just like real scientific research. And when I say rigorous, I mean it. Before any critical code gets deployed, the idea has to start life as a scientific paper. Then it gets handed over to other scientists and mathematicians to find every possible flaw. Only after it survives that does it get turned into code and finally released. This is exactly why everything takes so long, because for them, security is everything, speed comes second. So what's the payoff for all this patience? Well, you get a network that is just incredibly stable and secure. It's rock solid. For instance, its core engine, a protocol called Ouroboros, was the very first proof-of-stake system to be proven secure through this academic process. We're talking about the world's smartest minds using pure math to prove it works. Okay, so that's the philosophy. It sounds great in theory, but how does it actually translate to the real world? Let's do a quick fundamental checkup. This 5-point scorecard gives us a really clear picture of the project's health. And this scorecard tells a fascinating story. Look at this. Technology maturity, developer activity, and governance all get a strong 4 out of 5. The foundation is secure, the dev community is super loyal and always building, and its decentralized governance is top-notch. But then, there it is, the critical weakness, ecosystem depth, a 2 out of 5.
This quote just nails Cardano's biggest problem perfectly. It's like a beautifully engineered city. The roads are perfect, the buildings are solid, but there just aren't many people living there yet. It has all this amazing infrastructure, but it's really struggled to attract the big-name apps and the huge user base that you see on other blockchains.
And this brings us right back to the paradox. If Cardano is this beautiful ghost town, why are these huge investors, the whales, quietly buying its token, ADA? Well, to understand that, we have to learn to think like they do. Whale investing is a totally different game than what most people play. They're not chasing hype, they're hunters, looking for assets that are fundamentally strong but are being ignored or undervalued by the market. And when they find one, they just accumulate it patiently, betting on what it could be in the future. I mean, the difference in perspective is just staggering. A typical retail investor might be thinking about the next week, maybe the next month. A whale? They're thinking about the next crypto cycle, 2 to 3 years away, or maybe even 5 to 10 years out. They are playing a completely different game with a much longer timeline.
And here's the absolute key to their thinking. Whales are not buying Cardano for what it is today. They're buying it for what its rock-solid, incredibly secure foundation could become years from now. They invest in potential, not in popularity.
So why Cardano specifically? Well, it seems to come down to 3 big things. First, that slow academic approach to tech gives them long-term certainty in an industry that's famous for hacks and failures. Second, at its current price, they see it as a bargain, great value for money when you're deploying a lot of capital. And third, they see it as a potential dark horse. If the market ever shifts away from hype and back towards core security, well, Cardano is perfectly positioned. So now let's bring these two stories together. What actually happens when the slow, methodical turtle finally crosses paths with the patient, long-term whale? It turns out it's a perfect match. The very thing that drives short-term traders absolutely crazy, Cardano's slowness, is the exact feature that gives these long-term investors confidence. The thing people see as a weakness is actually the core of the entire investment thesis.
What this really means is that the whole debate around Cardano isn't about tech specs or transactions per second. It's a clash of investment philosophies. It's short-term hype versus long-term value. It's speed versus security. And that brings us to the final choice, which is straight out of the old fable, isn't it? Do you bet on the fast-moving rabbits of the crypto space, hoping they don't burn out or crash along the way? Or do you place your bet on the slow and steady turtle, trusting that its secure, deliberate approach is what's going to win the race in the end? That is the billion-dollar question that the whales seem to be answering with their wallets.